Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm Darren, I'm your host, and today we're going to have a special guest on, Mr. Michel Maalouly from Desora, which is a company that makes the Ikamand for Kamado Joe grills, and also the SloRoller, which can be found in the Kamado Joe Classic 3 line, and they also have the Cinder Grill. And I'll be back with Michel, and we'll discuss all that in just a minute.
Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. My name is Darren, I'm your host, and I have special guest on with me today, Mr. Michel Maalouly from Desora. Welcome, Michel, and introduce yourself.
Sure, pleasure to be here, Darren. Thank you. Big fan of the podcast and everything you've been doing with sous vide, so certainly a pleasure to be on. I run Desora, which it's a barbecue company that actually owns Cinder, a sous vide grilling company as well. Our company was founded out of Harvard a few years ago, and now we've been in the barbecue space for a few years, and excited to be talking.
Great. Well, let's start with that. I'm familiar with you because you are hooked up with the Kamado Joe company, and I've been a Kamado Joe owner and fan for a number of years. And you guys had started at designing the SloRoller for Kamado Joe, which they have now. And I guess that's how you started the company, pretty much at Harvard, correct?
Absolutely. It was a little bit different when we were starting off. So originally, and this is taking you to the very beginning, Desora was really born in a Harvard classroom in the spring of 2015. And back then, my now business partner, who was back then my professor at Harvard, in engineering, his name is Professor Kevin Kit Parker. If he hears me call him that, he will kill me. To us, he's Kit. But, he basically decided one day he wanted to give a class on barbecue. And his objective was to build the most optimized, best cooking barbecue out there. And he wanted to use rigorous engineering and science to build it from first principles. And really, during that class, we came out with a few different key pieces of insight, one of which is that the shape of your barbecue really affects the speed at which your food cooks, but also the quality of the food you end up with. So how even the food cooks or how much smoke it absorbs. And we applied our first principles. We had someone who was on the short list for the Nobel in chemistry come in and give us a lecture on how to make sure that you have smoke absorption onto the surface of your barbecue. We had the foremost experts in ceramic heat conduction come in and actually give us a class on how to design and optimize a piece of hardware to achieve a heat profile that we want it to. And we built a lot of really rigorous models that were mimicking barbecue. And within a span of about 90 days, we had gone from a lot of people not even knowing what barbecue was to really a machine that was optimized in design format to make better food. The way it was optimized is, we were looking for way more uniform heat across the grill plate, and we're looking for increased smoke absorption. And so the class was pretty interesting, got a lot of people writing about it. It was in the New York Times, the Boston Globe, and whatnot. And I thought it was that. For me, it was a great class, and it was a very rigorous engineering assignment, but I thought that was all that was going to come from it. And then one day, Kit sort of called me in his office with our third founder, her name is Yinka Ogenby, and said, hey, people seem to be interested by this. Let's try to make it a reality. And so we started the company. We raised venture funding from Morningside Ventures, a VC firm based out of Boston, and started Desora. And we were going to market completely with our own product. And if you can imagine it, it sort of had that hyperboloid shape that's distinctive of the SloRoller on the outside. And then at some point, actually, we were approached by Kamado Joe. And that was towards the end of 2017. And Kamado Joe had seen what we had done in the class and was very interested in, making sure they had the best performing Kamado grill on the market. So we sort of joined forces, as opposed to taking our products to market, which back then were a barbecue and a controller. We said, hey, it would be great to actually combine forces with a company that has the same vision for the future. And that's how our partnership with Kamado Joe came about. So we ended up integrating the SloRoller into their entire product line. And that's in the Classic 3, the Big Joe 3, the Pro Joe. And we ended up also merging all the software for what now is the Ikamand, the controller that retrofits onto all these grills. And it's been a crazy ride since then. And that's how we got into the barbecue space. Now, Cinder, which is the other company we operate, is a whole different story, but we could get into that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get into that down the road. I want to back up a little bit and discuss when you were in class starting this project and putting it all together. What made you choose a charcoal ceramic grill over, let's say, a pellet grill or any kind of drum smoke or anything like that?
Sure. That's a great question. The first thing we optimized for was uniform heating. And for that, we saw that ceramic was the way to go, right? And so then instead of talking about a barrel smoker or talking about something made out of cast iron, we just decided to go ceramic. Once we had that figured out, the next part was, what kind of barbecue do we really want to make? And, I wish there was a very objective answer to this, but subjectively speaking, there's nothing like the flavor you get from cooking on charcoal. There's absolutely no alternative, right? And then the joy you get from cooking on, a live fire with charcoal, that's also unparalleled. And so we decided to basically just proceed with that design. Now, that added some complications because we wanted to make sure we could control the grill from our phones. It's what we wanted with the product. So if you can imagine with a pellet where you have tighter control over how you're burning your fuel source, that would have been an easier problem. But, we figured a way around it, and the Ikamand performs, exactly the way we want it to on the charcoal grill now.
So let me ask you another question. The grill that you were designing around your hyperbolic insert, was that also a ceramic grill? And how far along did you guys get to designing the grill before you hooked up with Kamado Joe?
Sure. Yeah, we were actually pretty far along, and yeah, it was ceramic. So we had the design ready to go. We were, almost going to market within the next 6 months, and we had done a lot of rigorous testing on it. So really, the first part of what of making the SloRoller, or what was the predecessor to the SloRoller, was running our software models and back testing those against the actual results. And so for about 6 months, we built really rigorous models that ended up filtering into the SloRoller design. So I would say we were pretty far along, both from the design phase and actually going to market, and manufacturing the grill itself.
So are you initially testing these on Kamado type, like Ben Green Egg or Kamado Joe, something that you could already get?
Sure. Well, the actual design was one we had tooled in the factory.
Okay.
So we weren't testing them in a grill itself. It had the shape on the outside. It had a completely different design. So if you can imagine, sort of that, if you've ever seen the SloRoller, just that sitting on the outside, made in ceramic. So we had a pretty neat shape in ceramic on the outside.
All right. So when you had to redesign the SloRoller, did you had to redesign it when you hooked up with Kamado Joe for their products that they already had, or did you have to redesign it from scratch and build their new Classic 3 line around that?
Yeah, so it's more so that we had to redesign the whole grill for it, right? So when we had originally built our models, we had built it around a SloRoller that was built into a grill in a very different way. And when we approached this problem with Kamado Joe, The insight that remained the same is the shape that we have is going to lead to better cooking. And so for the Classic 3, the Big Joe 3, and the Pro Joe, we actually, more so than just having to design the SloRoller, had to design the entire grill itself. So if you'll notice, the Classic 3 and the Big Joe 3 actually do have more height than the Classic 2 and Big Joe 2. And the reason is that we needed that extra clearance to actually get the pressure profile that would create this increased smoke absorption. So, this is diving into a little bit of the details here, but it matters because what the SloRoller actually does is it changes the pressure profile within your grill. You can imagine it like being a closed container. Anything underneath the SloRoller is an area of high pressure, and anything above it is an area of low pressure. And the pressure differential, or the pressure difference in between those two areas, is what's key to creating what we call cyclonic airflow. And that's basically airflow that ripples around your food multiple times before leaving the grill. And if you don't get that pressure differential that's just right, you're not going to end up with those smoke spirals that make your food smokier, that give you that crispier skin on the chicken. So when we were reintegrating the SloRoller into the Kamado Joe design, we actually had to test thousands of variations of that design, and we did it in our models. So you can imagine 1 inch of difference at the neck or 1 inch of additional clearance of height for the grill, and you can optimize all these variables. And the beautiful thing about running it in computers is that you don't have to build a prototype every time, right? You can run about 1,000 design variations in the span of a couple of months, and then prototype it and make sure that your results match your models. And so that's exactly what we did. So we went through thousands of variations, thousands of different designs, tweaking it inch by inch to come up with what we found to be the optimal design. And we repeated that for every grill: the Classic 3, the Big Joe 3, and the Pro Joe. So really powered by a ton of science and thousands of hours of simulations.
So let me ask you this question, because I'm sure this is going to come up. There's all kinds of tradition and then also science-based stuff in the barbecue world, I'm sure you know. One of the things that I know just from I follow Meathead Goldwyn on Amazing Ribs, and he does a lot of science-backed studies. And one of the studies is on how smoke works with meat. And one of the big issues is that smoke really doesn't penetrate the meat very far beyond the top layer. So it's because the smoke molecules are far too big to do that. Salt is about the only thing that can actually penetrate deep into meat. So how does the SloRoller work with that? It's not really penetrating the meat anymore. Is it just covering the meat more? You're capturing more of that smoke around the meat instead of it leaving the grill?
So we're about to do a deep dive into like some serious science stuff, right? Here's the thing. So that process that you're talking about, when a smoke molecule actually sticks to the surface of a food or of any object, that's called adsorption, right? And so there are two phases there. The first phase is collecting the molecules on the surface of your food, right? And the second phase is having those molecules penetrate into your food. Now, the most basic concept also to start off at the very high level, right? If you have too much moisture on your food, for instance, some of these molecules are going to slide off, right? And then if you have the right kind of rub, you'll have molecules that are trapped more so. So taking those variables to the side for a second, the equation for the adsorption is dependent on two things. One, it's the concentration of those smoke molecules that are at the surface of your food. And two, it's the adsorption coefficient, which is the rate and the depth to which these molecules can penetrate into your food. We're not changing the type of food that's there. So that coefficient, right? The absorption coefficient is staying the same. What the slow roller is doing is it's increasing the initial concentration of smoke onto your food, at the surface, which in turn increases the amount of smoke that ends up penetrating your food. We can't make it penetrate it, that will make it penetrate a tiny bit more and will lead to more molecules penetrating the food. But we can't, sort of change the laws of physics of the actual cut of meat and have it penetrate all the way down into the center, right? So there are limitations to what we can do. But the slow roller, by increasing the amount of airflow that's coming in contact with your food, is one, increasing the concentration of smoke particles at the surface of your food, and two, is thereby increasing the amount of smoke that ends up going into your food and absorbing into the surface.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of what I want you to explain, because there's a lot of people out there that, they go by what they've heard and a lot of myths that smoke can actually penetrate deep into the food, which it really can't. And I understand that one of the reasons why barbecue pitmasters spritz their meat is because they're putting more moisture on through the meat that attracts more smoke, that dries off, and then they put more on. It's like painting smoke paint. So what the slow roller pretty much does is make sure that you have the optimal amount of smoke hitting the meat at all times, instead of it blowing out the vent.
No, absolutely.
Right? So,
but what you want to also make, pay attention to is that if you spritz too much, it's like you're giving it a bath. Then it's counterproductive.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So you want to sort of.
Right. Yeah. There's a certain amount you do it like every 40 minutes, and you wait till the meat's completely dry, then you spritz again. And that's kind of the way I always do it. And that's the way I tell people, because that's just like when you paint a wall, you wait till that coat dries and then you paint another layer, because you want it to be as deep as possible. So you don't just keep painting and painting, because it won't have the same effect as if you let it dry, paint another layer, let it dry, paint another layer. It's the same thing. You get that buildup of that layer of smoke on the food that will make it a lot, have that taste a lot more as well.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you another question about the Kamado Joe, because there's been rumors around that you're supposed to be redesigning the hyperbolic insert to fit into the older grills or the smaller grills. Is that a fact or true?
I can't confirm nor deny it.
Okay,
all I can say is that it's certainly something that's possible, right? Whether that ends up happening next year or ends up happening, maybe at a later point in time, that I can't answer. But I will say it is very possible for us to do it. But it won't be the same results, that's for sure, right? Because we had to go in and actually re-optimize the entire grill to get optimal performance. But there's a lot we can do to actually make the Classic 2 and Big Joe 2 perform better. That's certainly something our models and design is capable of doing.
Yeah, and the Pro Joe was already a very large unit, so I'm sure it was easy to fit it inside of that.
Yeah, the Pro Joe is what we started with. It's always easiest to sort of validate the technology and get it to work in really high-end products, and then have that sort of expand as you become more proficient with that technology. And it's sort of what we had with the Pro Joe, where we started with that, and then we were able to, within 6 months, to actually 6 to 9 months, roll out the Classic 3 and Big Joe 3.
Now, you weren't involved with the Ikamand from the beginning, because they had already started building this product and had it working with some other company before you guys got involved. So when you guys got involved and the slow roller came into play, they gave you this to design and finish it up to work with the slow roller, pretty much?
Yeah, something close to that. What actually happened was, our value proposition for barbecue was more so than just the slow roller. Really, what we wanted to do was take every aspect that we had seen not being, not offering all the comforts it could, and optimize that. And that included both the slow roller and the Ikamand. And so when we were starting off, we were bringing to market a smart grill. And when we joined forces with Kamado Joe, it was not on a project basis. It wasn't on a design basis. We don't operate a design shop. Rather, what we did was we merged all of our product lines. So that went beyond just the SloRoller. It went into the Ikamand as well. Our vision was, if we wanted to bring, the comfort of barbecue to another level, we had to do it on all the fronts that we saw were lacking. So we weren't going to put out a different controller under a different brand than where our key technology for the SloRoller was. And so Kamado Joe basically had a piece of hardware that they decided they wanted to keep, and we decided we wanted to keep our software. So we sort of merged both. And the software is something that we continuously work on. So people think that, or actually all of our users already know this because they keep updating their firmware, but there's a full team building full-time software to support the Ikamand. We've shipped out about 10 firmware updates in the last year, adding features like the ability to use your Ikamand as a thermometer, right? The ability to calibrate your probes, the ability to start up your grill. And so there's a full-time team just building software for it and making sure the experience is what it should be.
Yeah, I've got a second gen, and I've used it a few times, and I've been very impressed. I didn't get in on the first gen and all that because I just heard all the issues that which is any product you first release it, especially technology products. Yeah. There's always some bugs you got to figure out, and I'm pretty close to a lot of the beta testers and all that, so I just kind of stayed back. But I'm very happy with it. I mean, I've used it several times, and I've not had an issue with it controlling the temp, keeping it where it needs to be. Now, I don't have a SloRoller or a Classic 3 or anything, but just using it on a regular Big Joe and Classic 2, it works just fine. I've had zero issues with it. And I've got most of the, all the new firmware updates and everything. So I had no issues with it at all. I think it's a great controller for those who, need or want, Wi-Fi control of their grill. And it does a great job of holding that temperature right where you need it to be. So yeah, I'm very happy with the Ikamand myself.
That's awesome. I mean, we do have some. I absolutely agree. Any product that you start, you launch, you expect some issues with it. You certainly have the bruises to show for it, but there's this relentless focus of just making this product, perfect. We don't want to compromise on the experience in the least, right? And so, we've been going through every single issue that has been arising and addressing it because we want this product to be absolutely perfect. And I'm happy to hear that you haven't had any issues with it, and that's the level of service that you need to expect from a product. So yeah, we might have some bugs that creep up then and there, but we are committed to actually solving these in an insanely fast manner, as quickly as we can without breaking things, and just every single step of the way making sure this product performs flawlessly, right? We have the ability to keep updating the software, adding features to it. The hardware is capable of a lot, the Gen 2. And so you can expect actually a lot of cool things in the future for the Ikamand. Some things that have still not been released even that we're working on right now.
Cool. Well, that's one of the things I love about Kamado Joe. They're always improving, changing. I started out with a Gen 2 Big Joe with the old hinge. They updated the hinge, totally redesigned the hinge. There's a lot of things that they have done to their cooker over the years that does nothing but improve it. And then now, of course, they're re-releasing the Gen 1 so they can have different levels of whatever somebody wants. If they don't want the Kamado Joe Classic 3, with everything that comes with that, they can settle for a 2, or they can go back to a 1 and go back to that. So, they have different price points that you can go into. And of course, then they got the Pro Joe. But they're just always innovating and changing and fixing things that are wrong. So I don't see a problem with that at all. If they just kept the product the same and, ignored all the issues and problems, that would be a different story. But they have always seemed to be first to change things that aren't working, upgrade things that need to be upgraded, and redesigning and coming out with new stuff.
Sure. Yeah, and there's a commitment to innovation. From a lot of the Kamado Joe customers. And I'll actually use the word family because it's such a tight community. Our engineers are people that love to tinker, that love to build, and in a community like that, you understand that to push innovation, you're going to trip a few times. If you're not tripping, then you're not pushing it far enough. Then you're not trying to achieve as much. And what we want to do for barbecue with Kamado Joe is give you the best experience possible, right? It's not just about being able to control the fire on your grill. We want you to be able to monitor the temperature. It's not just about getting great heat distribution. It's about getting great heat distribution, but increased smoke exposure, right? So there's a lot of optimizations that keep happening, and as to be expected, if some issues come up, our commitment is they will always be fixed, no matter what, whatever it takes.
And that's, like you said, it pushes innovation.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we're going to go ahead and take a break real quick for Inkbird for an ad, but we'll be right back with Michel Maalouly from Desora. Hey all, it's Darren. I want to welcome a new sponsor to the podcast, Inkbird Products. Inkbird's been around since 2010. They make some good humidity controllers, temp controllers, thermometers. They just released a new line of barbecue thermometers. I actually have the IBT 4XS model, which is a Bluetooth 4-probe barbecue thermometer. It has up to 150-foot range on the Bluetooth. Has built-in times and temps for different meats. Works really great. Check them out, Inkbird Products. You can find them on my Amazon store on the link on my website. Also, you can check them out on Facebook, Inkbird Barbecue. You can join their group. They have discount codes, giveaways all the time. But welcome Inkbird Barbecue Products to the Fire and Water Podcast. Check them out, guys. Thanks. All right, Michel, we're back. And now we pretty much discussed everything with Kamado Joe and how you guys started out in Harvard, But now let's talk about the Cinder Grill. You guys went out and bought the Cinder. I guess the Cinder Grill wasn't something you designed. Let's just talk about that. How did that all go about?
Sure, yeah. So it was not a product we'd originally designed. As a matter of fact, the Cinder brand is even older than the Desora brand. But that product is actually, it's such a phenomenal piece of innovation that we've always been a fan. So I'll run you through actually the entire history of this. Cinder was founded by, engineers, one of which who actually had been an engineer at Lockheed Martin, and who wanted to basically reinvent the way sous vide cooking happened. And for your audience that's familiar with sous vide, you already know how it works. For those that are not, sous vide is basically, which in French means under vacuum, it's cooking a piece of food at a very low temperature, sort of mimicking under vacuum for a long period of time. And initially, this was something that was so complicated to do that only restaurants actually went through the trouble of cooking for it. The results that came from sous vide cooking was very moist food, very evenly cooked. For proteins, this does wonders. And what Cinder wanted to do was actually create that same type of cooking, but without the inefficiency of actually having to heat up a full bath of water, putting your food in a plastic bag, and then cooking it for a long amount of time in that bath of water. Then when it's done, having to reheat up a skillet or get your grill going to actually get that finish that you would want. Actually, what Cinder does is it achieves the exact same quality of food without needing a water bath and without the plastic bag. And it does that by being able to very tightly control temperature. And that's due to two fundamental breakthroughs. One is a hardware design breakthrough, which is a patented part of Cinder, and that's an area underneath the plates and at the plates that allow it to control the temperature so tightly. And two, it's actually the software on which Cinder runs that allows it to measure your food's temperature without a thermometer and cook it to a desired food temperature. And so as engineers, we had seen the product for what it was. It was a key piece of innovation that had applicability way more than just the current form factor that Cinder was in. And so in December of 2018, we acquired Cinder. And they had a very, very successful Indiegogo campaign, and we fulfilled that campaign. So they had sold about 1,000 units in a month before the product was manufactured. And we rebuilt the app and continued to support it. Into the grander vision of what Desora does, we've always been about how to optimize cooking with science, how to create the next generation of home appliances. And this was an opportunity to grow from merely outdoor barbecue to indoor grilling as well, right? Now, at this point, we're not doing it with another partner, and that's got obviously its benefits and some of its drawbacks, but it's the same type commitment to innovation in food cooking.
Now, you pretty much just took over the software and the hardware. It was already had a production line and everything. Have you made any changes to any of that so far? Have you redesigned the software, added anything to it? Or?
Yeah. So absolutely, that's exactly what we took over. So the hardware has not changed yet, and we do have plans to actually optimize the design further. But really, the first thing we've dug our teeth into has been the software. So within a few months, we pushed out an Android app, and the software that's currently running on it keeps getting updated. The iOS app is going to get updated. And eventually what we want to do is have the Cinder grill actually share learnings with the Ikamand. If you can imagine what that means whenever someone in an anonymous and aggregate format is cooking on a Cinder grill, eventually the grill, which keeps learning and cooking better by basically optimizing the temperature profiles, all those learnings can be shared with an outdoor grill. And eventually what we want to do is have the Cinder and the Kamado and the Ikamand operate on one software platform.
Well, that sounds great. What kind of redesigns to the hardware are you looking at?
So, something that we've heard a lot of customers talk about is the size of the thing. It's built for a family of two, and the design is, a beautiful stainless steel design, but sometimes it's a little heavy to have on your counter and has, a big footprint. One of the things we're considering is how do we make the Cinder grill a little bit less real estate demanding, but achieving the same the same desired outcome. And that's only one of the things, right? There's a lot of additional form factors in which we could achieve this same sous vide type cooking, but these are still designs that we it's a little bit early to be talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've had one for a couple months now. Played around with it. You guys sent me one to test out, and one of the things, I do have a family of four, so it is kind of limiting as far as the size goes, and also it's kind of limiting to what you can actually cook on it because of the way the plates are. It's got to be pretty, flat, even, steaks that are pretty much the same thickness and size, to fit on there and all that. So I could understand where there could be some improvements to the thing to make it a little bit more desirable, but it works as far as, controlling the temperature and the way it cooks and sears. It's spot on. I've checked it with my instant read thermometer, compared it to some of the sous vide cooks, and what it does really well. But like you said, I could see where there are some drawbacks or things that could be enhanced upon as far as the hardware goes, for sure.
Sure. I mean, and you think about the fundamental breakthrough here, like what other appliance that you can think of is able to measure your food's temperature without a thermometer inserted into the food, right? What you're basically doing when you're cooking with cinder is you're saying, hey, I want you to, cinder, please cook my piece of meat to 135 Fahrenheit. And cinder will do that to within 1 degree Fahrenheit. And you're not inserting a thermometer. You can imagine the applicability of that technology and the form factors it can take. The possibilities are endless. The current form factor is meant to basically optimize for heat insulation in many ways. And also when it's searing, both on the top and the bottom, you want to make sure that you're able to get that, that really crispy sear. So a lot of the design that has already gone into cinder has gone into optimize around food. And this is maybe not something that's happening in the next year or two. It might be some more time before this happens, but there certainly could be form factors that don't look the way cinder currently does, but that end up achieving the same results. But that's not currently on the docket.
Yeah, the thing works great. Like I said, I mean, I can't say that it doesn't do what it says it can do and is supposed to do. Now, when I ran into Bobby and John up in at the Atlantic Grill Company grand opening in December. It was not too long after they came back from looking at this with you guys, and they were telling me it's going to replace sous vide. It's going to, sous vide will be out the window, and I don't think it does that, because there's some things I can do with sous vide, especially with larger pieces of meat and a cooler and stuff like that. I mean, it works similar to sous vide. I mean, it does. And for somebody who does not, like you said, doesn't want to have to bother with the water bath and all that, the cinder is going to be great, but it doesn't replace sous vide. It's something that can be, different or similar to what you could do with a steak or chicken breast or something like that. Could replace that, but in order, to make larger pieces of meat or what have you, or vegetables or what have you, something like that, sous vide's still going to be around for a long time.
Sure.
It is a newer technology that definitely deserves, expansion. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, there's a capacity constraint around it, right? You're cooking for 2 people on a cinder. You can't really cook for a family of 5 all at once. Absolutely. But you need to think of what the flip side is. Let's say, and this is not necessarily for people as experienced as yourself, but some people that are intimidated of actually taking out or purchasing an immersion circulator, putting their food in a plastic bag, waiting for that to cook and then searing that. It's a pretty daunting task, right? But you can imagine what the alternative is on cinder. That alternative is unpack your piece of meat, put it on the cinder grill plate, dial the temperature to whatever you want your food to be at, and just wait, right? So I absolutely agree. I think there's stuff you can do now with an immersion circulator. They're just not possible on a cinder, right? I know you had a brisket video a few weeks ago. That's probably not something you can do on a cinder in its current form factor. But there are other aspects in which the product is designed just to make amazing cooking easier for the daily person.
Definitely. And I can see that. I can see people living in the city, that are single, or like you said, just a couple that have a small apartment or house. They don't want to have, 85 different kitchen appliances. They don't want to have a sous vide circulator and a container to hold the water, and a vacuum sealer to vacuum the bags, and the vacuum bags itself. So it's a lot easier just to have a cinder sitting on the counter and getting very similar or the same result when you're trying to cook steak or chicken breast and what have you. So there's definitely a market for it. I can say that, but yeah, it's a great product. I can't say anything bad about it at all, except for the limit of the size and capacity right now.
Definitely, and that's something that's on our radar. We love hearing what our customers have to say, and that's something that's come up, and it's something we eventually want to deal with.
Now, I noticed, it does have a limited amount of food on the app. Is that something you're working on more? I know it has the ability where I could add food, like I did Italian sausages the other day, and there's no sausage, piece, but I can add that, and I can put the temperature I want to cook them at. But if I was because I know what I want just from being doing sous vide, I know what I want my internal temperature of my sausage to be. But if I was a novice, I wouldn't know. So is there expansion going to go on with that?
Sure. I'm super happy that you actually asked this. Last week, we announced the release of what we call our Chef Partnership Program. And our first chef partner is actually a Michelin-starred chef, John Critchley. So we're investing in building recipes specifically for Cinder. And because we know it's a whole new way of cooking that people need to get used to, and the app at the moment isn't offering what it should in terms of the amount of food guidance that we should be giving. Chef John Critchley is actually our first chef that we're bringing into the program. We have other chefs already in the program that we haven't announced, that we will be announcing, that are going to be building similar recipes for it. When you think about making amazing food at home, what Desora and Cinder or all of Desora's products want to do is not just give you the tool to do it, but also build the resources that you need to make the most use of it. And for Cinder, that's actually recipes developed by a Michelin-starred chef specifically to make use of Cinder's sous vide and grilling capabilities. For instance, we made a whole chicken.
Very interesting.
Yeah, we made a whole chicken, a spatchcock chicken on the Cinder, right? And we've built the recipe exactly for Cinder with its temperature control to guide users through every stage, so that when you're making a chicken, people can't tell the difference whether it's a $250 chicken that you've paid for at a Michelin star restaurant, or it's just something you cooked up in 50 minutes before your guests arrived, right?
That sounds amazing. So it looks like you are expanding that functionality. That's for sure going to help out when people consider it. Now, I know right now you're strictly selling them through your website and the Cinder website, correct?
Absolutely. It's just a Cinder Grill website at the moment. And the reason why we've done that is this is early days for us for Cinder. We want to make sure we're interfacing with the customers directly. We want to make sure that we're giving our customers the best possible experience. There's a 30-day guarantee behind Cinder. You don't like the product, you've used it for 29 days, and for some reason you want to return it, we'll happily take it back, right? And so that's why we've decided to only sell it through the website on Cinder Grill, because it allows us to work with our customers in these early days in a way that going through a traditional distribution channel wouldn't allow us. We wouldn't be able to collect as much feedback. We wouldn't be able to provide the premium experience that our customers deserve.
It'd probably be a lot, not very cost effective either, to have Cinder grills sitting at Amazon and multiple warehouses around the country and going to different places and all that. I'm sure it would be a nightmare trying to do all that. But I can understand that. Definitely, since you were, like you said, you're in the building stage and you want to have as much control over that and the customers as possible, so you can continue to develop the software and the hardware if necessary down the road.
Yeah, and that's not to say putting the product on Amazon is something that we don't want to do. Certainly, that's on the roadmap, but at the moment, the way we are going about selling the product is, if we can make sure that the customer gets the experience they deserve in terms of learning how to cook on Cinder, in terms of getting their issues resolved, in terms of getting support when they need it, then we will act. Then we will do it. I see a future where, at the end of the year, the recipes that you're talking about, we have 100+ recipes that we've built with renowned chefs that are on the Cinder app. We have an iOS app that is now as updated as the Android app, which, by the way, we released a new app a few weeks ago. Desora and Cinder, it's about cutting edge technology and getting it to our customers in the best form factor possible. And that's where we keep investing. We have engineers building around the clock, making sure that we're making the best app. We have a culinary team of chefs that are building recipes for Cinder. We have a customer support staff that's making sure we are teaching people how to use Cinder when they need. They can call us in. And so every single resource that's there that we can help put at the disposition of our customers, we want to do, so that people feel comfortable using Cinder, so that they learn how to use this new cooking method.
Well, great. So that leads us into, what else does Desora have going on besides the Cinder and the Kamado Joe products?
Well,
is there anything else on the horizon?
At the moment, our main focus are these two products. That's it. I think we have way more than we can, much more than we can deal with in terms of improvements that we can make, opportunities for enhancement that we see in all of our products. And that's where we're investing our time. It's Cinder and all of our current outdoor barbecue space at the moment, at least in the short term. In the long term, when we look at a few years down the road, we're certainly not ruling out other home appliances. But at the moment, our main focus is making sure our current customers are extremely happy that we've built the best products possible. And when the time comes, and a time will come, we will continue to expand. But at the moment, Cinder and the Ikamand and any additional grills that we make with Kamado Joe are our main focus.
Well, that's good. I mean, that means you're concentrated on getting the products that you have working right now the best that they can be before you start moving on. I see a lot of companies try to get into too many things at once, and they do a lot of different things, but none of them well,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not the experience people deserve. Actually, nobody's better suited, I think, to look at these two industries than you, right? You look at where all the barbecue space is going. Yeah, look at what all the brands are doing. They're all investing in technology that's going to, 5 years from now, change the way every single person in America grills and barbecues. Same thing for sous vide and indoor cooking. And what we want to do is make sure we're always at the forefront there, right? We're building stuff right now that we'll be releasing 6 months, a year down the line, right? Our time horizon is not that the product works fine and we're sleeping on our laurels. It's how can we keep making these products better? What are some features we can keep adding to the Ikamand? What are some features that we can keep adding for Cinder? How do we build out a better experience? And we intend on staying at the forefront of the industry. We don't just want to be there.
Yeah, that's one of my discussions with just about everybody that comes on the podcast, especially, is the amount of technology and changes going on in the outdoor, barbecue area, with all the pellet grills, with the Wi-Fi connections, and the temp controllers like Ikamand with Wi-Fi control, and the PID controllers and stuff like that can get the temperature on a pellet grill within 1 degree, kind of like what the sous vides or circulators do. But then again, like on the sous vide side, you got all these cheap Chinese junk products that are $50, and they stamp sous vide on it, and they kind of tarnish what the cooking method could actually be. And then you got companies like yourself and like Innova and Jewel that concentrate on 1 or 2 different products and make them the best they can be. And that's what I try to stay close to. I've looked at like I said, I want to use something that's going to last me a long time. I don't mind paying a little bit more money for it, but I want something that's going to be innovative and that's going to continue to try to make the product better.
So. Absolutely. I mean, you look at the products that you're talking about, they might come with an app even, but who knows how long that app will continue to be supported. Who knows what kind of experience they're going to build. What you really want is a product that you buy once, but that keeps providing value, that keeps evolving, right? The Ikamand, when the first person had ever bought an Ikamand, they were only able to control their grill temperature. Within 3 to 4 months, those people, plus everybody else that bought one afterwards, could use their Ikamand as a simple thermometer. the people that came after that could now calibrate their temperature probes with it, and so on and so forth. And when you invest in a piece of hardware for your kitchen, you want to invest in something where there's a commitment for it to keep getting better. Every single person that has purchased the Cinder so far is getting complimentary access for life to these recipes that we are paying professional chefs to keep building for them, right? This is, a commitment that we've made and that we will keep to our customers, right? And you want products that can offer this level of service and that, whose mission is to do that.
Yeah, because you want to build a loyal following that's going to come to you when they need a new product or suggest you to their friends and families that they really trust. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to work with companies that I personally feel comfortable with, and I have no qualms, suggesting them to my friends and family. Because one thing I don't want somebody coming back to me going, hey, you told me to buy this thing and it's a piece of garbage, and they don't, the customer service is, crap, and they treat their customers like, and so definitely, I want to deal with customers or companies and products that I trust. So
absolutely.
Well, thanks for coming on, Michel. And is there anything else you want to discuss about Desora or Cinder or anything else going on in the industry?
That's it. I would say I would keep my ears peeled. There are a few different things coming up, not in the very short term, but in the medium term, both for our outdoor barbecue space with Kamado Joe, and for the indoor cooking space with Cinder. So make sure to keep following us. There's some exciting things to come, and if any of our customers have any kind of feedback, please do reach out to us. I want to make sure that the experience that you guys get is the best experience possible. And I know some of your fans actually may have already purchased the Cinder. If there's anything we can do to make your experience better, just let us know, and we'll be happy to do it.
Well, and you'll be able to find the links to Cinder's website and Desora's website in the description below. So make sure you check them out. Make sure you check out Kamado Joe Grills and all their products. But thanks again, Michel, for coming on. I really appreciate this, and I'll have you on in the future when you have some announcements to make about some changes or new releases. Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for coming on, and I appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next episode of Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. Thanks again for joining us here on the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I want to thank Michel Maalouly from Desora for joining us again. It was a great information he had about the Kamado Joe, the SloRoller, and the Cinder Grill. Also want to thank all you for listening. Make sure you rate our podcast. You can follow us on Facebook on our page and our group. Follow us on Instagram and our YouTube channel, Fire and Water Cooking. And make sure you check out Desora at the link below, and check out Inkbird products, also in the link below. And I'll see you again soon on the next Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. Thanks for joining.